Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Safa, and thank you, IAMC, for holding this event. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Unfortunately, guys, I'm not as prepared as the previous speakers in regards to having a speech prepared. What I want to talk about is from my heart. If you have seen the BBC documentary, The Modi Question, good on you guys. If you haven't, I would strongly urge you guys to watch the documentary.
If you can speak.
Is that better? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's better. Sorry. Okay. So, in regards to the traumas that I've faced, I have spoke about this in the BBC documentary, but that doesn't define me who I am as a person. What I had suffered in Gujarat 2002 was very cruel and something that had impacted a lot of people and families. What I'd like to bring on Yusuf to talk about the processes that we have been through in our journey to seek justice in the journey that we have had. And at the end, after Yusuf has spoken, I would like to share a poem with you, which has been a healing process for me in regards to the traumas that I have faced. So Yusuf, thank you.
First of all, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. It's sometimes relatively easy to deal with technical presentations and a real challenge to deal with personal stories of trauma, grief, suffering. And as Safa described in terms of her introduction, we, as a family, I was born in England. We wanted to come here and share our experience and speak to you from our heart and not have a pre-scripted talk for you. And I wanted to share with you our relationship with India in terms of how it has shaped our journey of being British-born citizens and how that journey has kind of changed over time. And with that in mind, I wanted to try to think back to what was our connection to India before 2002. Because before my brother, my Saeed Bhai, who was the eldest member of our family, and very much a father figure, a very hard-working individual, who had 3 children of his own, young children. Mohammad Aswat, he had children of his own. Shakeel Bhai, he had children of his own. A young baby, before they went, they had this excitement because our relationship with India was based upon Mohammad, on love. Because my father was born in India, my mother and Imran's mother, they were born in Fiji. And this Mohammad that was instilled upon us was because diaspora communities have this real connection with what we called our motherland. And they had such excitement in terms of what they were describing would be happening on their trip, where they would go, the food they would eat, the sights, the sounds. And Shakeel Bhai, he'd never been to India. He used to sometimes make fun out of my brother in terms of saying, you're Desi, I'm not, etc. And he was also kind of like, quite excited by this notion that I'm going to discover this place. What is this thing about India that is so special that our parents talk to us about in terms of why they love this country so much? And when they went there and we heard the news that something has happened, because I got a text message, I was in Cambridge at the time, arrived in Yorkshire, and there were these TV cameras and, satellite TV bands. And we didn't know what had happened to Saeed Bhai and Shakeel Bhai. And from there started this knowledge and this understanding of what we were up against. At that point, we thought Saeed Bhai and Shakeel Bhai, they were missing. We knew that Imran had been taken, he'd survived, he was in a hospital, very traumatized. and a local doctor, Dr. Dongri, was actually looking after Imran in his home because he feared that the evil perpetrators of these actions would actually come and hurt Imran if he wasn't even in his own home, And even Dr. Dongri years later, well, a few years later, he had to leave his own town because he looked after Imran, And this is the extent to which this hate has manifested itself in their hearts, in their minds, in their souls. When we went there, the authorities, they were saying, look, we're doing everything. We've done everything. And these representations were being made at the highest levels. Thankfully, we had good connections, and the Muslim community in the UK came together. And that shows also the strength we have when we are together and we are united. We actually work in a coordinated manner. Yet, when we were told they're doing everything, upon going to the crime scenes, we ourselves had to identify, what had taken place, where the killings had happened, and gather up DNA remains, which later on, many weeks, maybe a few months later, were then positively identified as being, our family members. Now, this concerted effort to hide the truth is also manifested in the fact that by declaring a person missing, there is no crime for 7 years. So even that act was one of deception. And deception, those of us from, the Islamic faith, we understand what the Dajjal times is, what the deception is. And this is the time we are facing, and this is the time where our knowledge and our iman is going to be tested. And we need to, recognize what our enemies would do. And the key thing is deception. They wanted to say to us that they were missing. They had no idea what had happened to them. And upon identifying what had taken place, we even had people that came forward and said, look, we know what happened. We know who did it. At that point, the police even took witness statements, but they never had the witness statements signed. So when years happened, the cases collapsed because the witnesses were pushed away, and it was like, well, nobody signed none of these statements. So essentially, we have witnessed a truth with our own eyes, and upon witnessing this truth, we felt that on the one hand, yes, okay, we are grieving, but it was important for us to actually consider what was happening to the people in India, because they were completely, and they are as well, they had no voice. They had no means of actually articulating what was going on. And whereas in the UK, we were able to articulate and we were able to make the point across that we do not find this to be acceptable. And I mentioned at the beginning the theme of our relationship with India, how it has transformed from one of complete love for a country based upon what our parents have instilled upon us, to then discovering that, gosh, we're actually now in a situation where you have politicians that are actually allowing free rein for people to go kill, to murder, to rape, and we felt an obligation to maintain a justice campaign. For many years, we have been on this journey, and one thing which we felt was very important has been to not succumb to the values that Modi, the RSS VIP, have propagated. It was very important that we understand what the Quran and Sunnah and the Hadith teaches us, to work within the frameworks, work within those things, and build bridges, especially with communities that are Muslim and non-Muslim alike. And therefore, even though 20 years have passed and we have many things that we have gone through, it is, I can't say a pleasure because none of this can be described at that, but it is a great inspiration to us that you are here, that you are organized, that you also want to raise your voice and continue with this struggle. And with that, it's important that you build bridges rather than, use bulldozer politics to crush people's lives. Now, Imran, over the years, he, for until 2014, he never spoke to the public because obviously a person's welfare is the most important thing. You know, it isn't some kind of show, as it were. This is very real to us. And after 2014, he spoke on some occasions, and privately he was writing poetry, doing many things. And, you know, speaking of bulldozers, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way he works is beyond our comprehension. And, you know, he is the greatest of planners. And we must have faith and we must have hope. And one thing that was said to me that I want to remind you all is the quality of our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that no matter what the situation, he would have a positive outlook. You know, and we need to keep that in ourselves, that we will persevere and we will overcome, but we must always maintain what are our values. We must not let their hatred and those strategies make us like that. And we must build bridges, even with the people who we consider to be our enemies, and especially even in the US. We must build those bridges and those dialogue. And I hope you can listen to Imran's poem, and I will, if you're ready, I'll pass over back to Imran. And Jazakallah for coming, and Jazakallah for your support, and inshallah we will persevere, because tyrants have come and gone, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest of planners, and we must have that faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, you know, we will persevere and we will overcome.
So I'm just going to read this poem quickly to the best of my ability. So the poem is called Bulldozer. My purpose, most commonly known for, is developing infrastructure, but the Modi BJP fascist government want to demolish and restructure. I'm not sure I accept the BJP fascist vision. I, the bulldozer, needs to be put under supervision. I am taking livelihoods away from the Muslim minorities, but who will be next? History taken out of textbooks, I should not be feeling perplexed. The Modi BJP fascist government insult the Prophet Mohammad, peace be upon him. What has followed is only grim. The Modi effect of Kashmir and Gujarat, Hindutva continues to combat. Use me to develop schools, hospitals, and serve humanity. Save me from the Modi, fascist BJP insanity. Help, help, help humanity. Save me from the Modi, RSS, BJP mentality. Thank you.